Welcome to Seafan Sports, a sports show that is dedicated to Seattle sports fans. My name is Dave, this is Kevin, and this is a year-end Seahawks Weekly. As always, you guys, if you're brand new here, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification bells, and if you've been here before and you haven't subscribed, this is the week because we're going to get into all the off-season news starting today. Kevin, I, again, have to grovel at your feet. Your prognostication skills were on fleek. You called that the Seahawks would win. I said that they would lose. You were absolutely correct. You, sir, are absolutely amazing that way. So, Kevin,
yes,
what did you see in Sunday's game? And, wow, I was just absolutely floored by the Seahawks' performance.
Well, I want to start off with one guy that I wasn't 100% sure I was going to take, but I wanted to ride the train one more game. And boy,
I kind of talked you into it.
You did. And Rashad Penny, absolutely. Once again, FedEx Ground Player of the Week. He was 23 rushes for 190 yards, 8.3 yards per average. Well, that's helped out by a 62-yard rush scoring touchdown. So, you can't ask for more than that. Russell, I thought he did okay. He looked really good at some parts. And then, he was 15 to 26 for 238 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception. And I say a costly fumble because they scored points off of it. So, and then, boy, did Tyler Lockett look good. 5 receptions, 98 yards, and 2 TDs. And then you and I both picked linebackers for our players of the week. I picked Jordan Brooks, and you picked
Cody
Barton. Yeah, I'm like, you drew a blank on his name for a second there. Anyway, they both played outstanding. I mean, Jordan Brooks, holy cow. I was so impressed. I mean, I just thought they both played extremely well. Great picks to click. And the only really bummer of that game was seeing
Quandre
being carted off.
Yeah,
and
that was rough.
Everything says he had a successful surgery, should be back. So hopefully
4 months.
Hopefully we'll see him next spring or next fall.
All right, Kevin. So that game's kind of wrapped up. It was an impressive game, and it kind of left me with 3 burning questions after that game that I really kind of sat down and I wanted us to start out with. Now we've got tons of the off season that we're going to be able to talk about. And if you guys have burning questions that you think of or that you thought of after that game, please make sure you drop them in the comment section down below because we definitely want to be able to address those comments. But my 3 questions that I wanted to get to, number 1 burning question, are we more impressed with the Arizona win or do we take more from the Chicago loss? Now keep in mind, these were 2 weeks apart. Russell really was, according to everything that I read, still not feeling effects from the broken finger. And he may, does 2 weeks separate between the two? Is the Chicago loss or the Arizona win more important going into this offseason? Kevin, your thoughts?
Well, I think the team has to evaluate the entire season. The good wins, the bad wins, or the bad losses, and the absolutely ugly. I mean, there were some ugly games. The Bears game, absolutely ugly. The Green Bay Packers game where we couldn't even score a point, absolutely ugly. I mean, there were some ugly games. And I know Russell was hurt, and we talked about it. He came back early. He even admits he came back early. But I think they have to evaluate on the entire season because I think the Seahawks coaching staff messed up as well. And so
that's burning question number 3.
I know.
So.
I know. I'm just saying that I think they have to evaluate on the entire season. I really believe the team has the potential. They had the potential all year that we saw during the Arizona game. But for some reason, we didn't play that way. And I don't know what it was. but I think the potential's there. I think we need some more key players, and we need to re-sign a few key players. So other than that, I think we're just going to evaluate on the whole year.
So Kevin, the reason and yeah, I understand that we need to evaluate on the whole year, but do you? I mean, I when the game was over, I was excited. I was happy. I was like, oh my gosh, this was an incredible win. But then on the flip side of it, I had to think it was just 2 weeks ago. Just 2 weeks that we had that previous performance against Chicago Bears, and we were not impressed. You go back and you listen to our podcast, we were completely down on the Seahawks as a whole. So, if it was in the middle of the season, it would be one thing. But these were 2 games at the end of the season when they looked like they had all of their stuff figured out. Okay. And we still came in and laid that stinker at home, but we were able to go on the road and play Arizona, who had just come off beating the Dallas Cowboys. Kevin, I think that there were more questions coming out of that game when I should be excited for the offseason. That's my thought. Again, you guys, if you think you have an opinion on that the burning question should be more for the Chicago Bears game, or the burning question should be more for the Arizona, more encouragement or more disappointment, again, make sure you drop it in the comment section down below.
Well, Dave, I just want to add one thing. That's what I'm talking about. That Arizona game, we saw the potential that this team had all year long. Why did we not play like that all year long? So that was my question. I absolutely had a great time watching that last game against Arizona, but where was that team in week 2? Where was it against Chicago? And that's my frustration, is the potential was there, but we didn't play it. So we have to evaluate why we didn't play to that potential, because it was there.
So that leads me to question number 2. And again, we're going to probably hit on these questions more in the coming weeks because we have lots to talk about. Question number 2. Was that the last Seahawks game that Bobby Wagner will be a part of the Seattle Seahawks? Is Bobby Wagner done in Seattle? Is number 54 not going to hold down the middle of the Seahawks defense? Kevin, what do you think?
It's a tough one. I'm pretty positive he will be back next year. I'm just not 100% sure he'll be on the existing contract that he has, but he was 31 years old. We kind of wrote him off at the beginning of the season that, hey, when linebackers get to that certain age, they just fall apart. Well, his numbers did not show that. In fact, that defense was on the field a ton this season. He had 155 total tackles, 78 solo, 1 sack, 5 pass defenses, and 1 interception this year in 16 games at 31 years old. At 30 years old, 16 games, had 136 total tackles, 79 solo, 3 sacks, 8 pass defensives, and no interceptions. Over the last 4 years, his numbers have not gone down. They are all equal. I really was shocked by it. And once again, he was voted AP All-Pro line honors again for the 8th year in a row. I think he still has stuff in the tank. I don't know if it's worth 20-some million dollars, but I just don't see him. I see him maybe trying to restructure the contract and not play him as many downs next year, because
here's my thing.
His body is going to wear down.
Here's my thing, Kevin. Where were teams attacking us?
Where they always attack us.
In the middle of the field.
Right.
And him as a middle linebacker, either he wasn't dropping back far enough, or he wasn't attacking the line of scrimmage well enough yes, he was getting tackles, but those tackles were not happening on the other side of the line of scrimmage, or he wasn't stopping them for 1 or 2 yard gains. It was for more like 5 or 6. He was getting the tackles. He still has the ability. He still has that, but he wasn't attacking. He wasn't playing downhill like we expect Bobby to play. And I saw and again, we're it seems like right now you and I are fighting over $100 bill, and yours is new, or yours is nice and new and pretty, and mine is wrinkled, but there's still $100 bill. He's still an amazing player, but is he amazing player that we're going to be able to pay $20 million? Or can we get by with Cody Barton and bring in a stud defensive lineman that's going to be able to get to the quarterback more? Is that going to be more of an impact?
Yeah, and that's what I said. I don't think we can continue to pay him $20 million. He's not a $20 million linebacker anymore, although 8-year All-Pro. So how do you argue with that numbers? What I was trying to say is the reason why I still think he has life left in him is because of the fact that I really believe he is solid on rundowns. Every team beats us in the middle of the field. And it's been going on for 5-10 years until when Legion of Boom left. And it wasn't even the Legion of Boom, in my opinion. They were great, but it was the defensive ends, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill. When Averill went down in the second Super Bowl against New England,
that's when they came back.
That's when they came back. So if we're not getting pressure, which we didn't do this year, we can't stop them. And you can ask Bobby to do everything in the world, but if you're not getting pressure, if you're not making him throw stupid passes, if you're not being able to shut them down up front, I mean, the linebackers have a job to do, and I think Bobby does his job.
All right, then let me ask you this, Kevin. Instead of saying, is Bobby done, should we allocate those funds in a different way? And I don't think that, again, I don't think that's a question that we can answer here 1 week out of into the offseason. Again, this is a question that's going to linger on through the season. You guys, if you think that Bobby Wagner should be in Seattle next year, make sure you drop that in the comment section. Who you think that should be in middle linebacker? I think Cody Barton should be there, and I think we should take that money and use it elsewhere in the defense or on the offensive line. Just my thoughts. And I love Bobby Wagner. I've been a Bobby Wagner fan for a long time. Have his jersey. But sometimes you have to make those tough decisions. All right, Kevin. So let's move on to speaking of tough decisions. A burning question out of me again, and I looked at the entirety of this season, is part of our coaching staff. Is that the last game that Ken Norton Jr. was defensive coordinator for our Seattle Seahawks?
I do believe that was the last game of Ken Norton Jr. I believe that he will be the scapegoat of the horrible defense the last few years.
Horrible start.
I don't think it's his fault on a lot of it. Why is Carlos Dunlap in the first half of the season dropping back into coverage? Why is Benson Mayoa dropping into coverage? Why are these guys not rushing the passer? Look at the last 6 games. Carlos had 8 sacks in the last 6 games.
8.5. Yeah.
Well, he had a half sack before that.
All right. Sorry, my bad.
No, it's okay. So my question is, why did they not let him do what he was hired to do and paid to do? And so that's what I'm saying. Somebody's going to take the fall. I don't know who it is, but unfortunately for Ken Norton Jr., it's going to land on his lap and he will be let go.
So, Kevin, he's been known to change up or give control of his defense to a defensive coordinator. And that's why I think he brings in maybe somebody like a Ken Wisenhunt. That Ken Wisenhunt is, has a defense that is more potent and plays better to the style of maybe the players that we have there, like he did at USC when he handed the defense over to Monty Kiffin and brought in the Tampa 2. So I think that he has that ability to be flexible. I think that right now, unfortunately, his back's kind of against the wall, and he's going to have to come out, and that defense is going to have to perform from day one in 2022. Kevin, your thoughts?
Well, I agree with it, and I don't know if he's going to go that direction. My gut is that he's pretty much locked into the way he wants it done. But is he going to have that much control anymore? I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with this, what the meeting happened yesterday. So I don't know. Is he going to have the control he had last year? Is he going to be able to determine what's going on every aspect of the field, or are they going to force his hand? So at this point, I do agree that our defense coordinator will be gone. The one thing I do love about Seattle's defense is when they are in the red zone, they have one of the best defenses in the red zone. The rest of the field, they can score, they can run up and down the field. But when it comes down to that box, they're tight and they can shut people down.
In my opinion, Kevin, it's because you have less field to defend. So they can't they can't attack that middle of the field because there's more players in the box.
Well, they can't attack the middle of the field too if you're getting pressure on them. And some reason in the red zone, we seem to get pressure on the opposing quarterback.
Well, I tell you what, folks, we have a long offseason of Kevin and I debating a lot of topics. And you know where you can find that at? Right here at Seafan Sports, Kevin. We have got to be attacking every week of this offseason, bringing you guys the most content that we possibly can do. And if you guys like it, again, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we want to make sure that you guys have Seafan Sports every week. Kevin, I think you only got 2 words left for the folks out there. What are they?
Go Hawks.